Hello and welcome to this presentation on receipting for Infor SunSystems. Receipting is a tool that is designed and built for SunSystems by Professional Advantage. Like all Professional Advantage modules, receipting supports all versions of SunSystems, be they SunSystems 4, 5 or 6. There is always a very tight and integrated upgrade path, so as you move forward with different versions of SunSystems, you can always be assured that there is an upgrade path to support this within the receipting module. Receipting is integrated at the deepest level and understands SunSystems concepts such as business unit, accounts, databases, analysis codes, etc. as required for the receipting process out of the box. Once it is installed, receipting integrates directly with the SunSystems database. The receipting tool has been designed to allow users to record receipts of cash or bank payments coming into their organisation, post these against the SunSystems accounts as required, and additionally raise documents such as receipt documents and also deposit slips where needed. Deposit slip posting can also be generated to clear accounts that have been held where a receipt has been entered into a holding account. Receipts can be deployed in a LAN, WAN or briefcase mode using an ultra-thin deployment, a thin deployment or a thick deployment as needed depending on your network footprint. Receipts can also be entered centrally directly against the system on a real-time basis, or users can enter them as a local receipt whereby they can batch up many entries and then post them as a batch against the central database and into SunSystems. Maintenance of the system and administration functions are only available in the LAN mode. The system relies on user groups, and user groups can be defined to have access to different receipt, payment types, etc. It also allows you to default information such as T-codes, addresses and other things that are important to the receipting process. Receipts can be tracked by user ID, end-of-day balancing by user can be used against a user group, and the system also has various shortcut keys and functional security that can be deployed against user group as required. The functional benefits of receipting include online allocation, whereby as you enter a receipt you are able to see existing transactions within the account in SunSystems to allocate the receipt against. Once the receipt is then posted, the allocation against this in SunSystems occurs at the same time. As part of the allocation, you can split these transactions. All SunSystems transactions that are required are posted on a real-time basis or on a batch basis if you are using batch processing, and the posting is through an integration directly into the ledger. These use SunSystems journal types, referencing, and all other SunSystems rules that are relevant to journal posting such as period controls, etc. You can also post additional information such as general descriptions, dates if needed. The deposit slip processing element around the receipting module is something that is entirely optional. This allows you, if required, to actually generate a receipt and have this held in a holding account, and then generate a deposit slip when you've collected all your cash, and once this has been deposited at the bank, print that deposit slip if needed, and then post the deposit against the bank account and clear the clearing account of all the receipts. On printing the deposit slip, the clearing account is summarised according to the requirements of the posting of the bank account. The system does also allow for a functional area called third-party detail lookup. This means that you are able to build a custom lookup using references and information held in receipt against another invoicing system. This means you can see that information within receipt detail as you choose various accounts or reference information. This is optional and does require a degree of customized integration in order to build that drill back to the invoicing system for the information where needed. An additional feature of receipting is that it does allow an interface to a check reader. Any commercial check reader that allows for magnetic invoicing numbers on the check number can actually be used with the receipting. So a user could actually scan checks through the reader and then have the details appear within the receipt or the payment that you're generating in the module. This is entirely optional. In summary, the module is fully functional, providing all areas of receipt requirements to be covered. It is integrated to Infor SunSystems. It can operate in a LAN WAN mode, and it allows for drillback to third-party invoicing products for detailed information if needed. We're now going to move on to a demonstration of the software and move through a complete receipt process from entering a receipt through the generation of a deposit slip and the posting into SunSystems. Users can log into the receipting module using their SunSystems user ID. This is derived directly from SunSystems, and if passwords change within the SunSystems environment, the password is picked up and changed as part of the receipting login. In this interface, as you can see, down at the bottom of the screen, you can see the user we've logged into, PAS, and you can also see the current business unit that we are accessing within the SunSystems environment, PK1. SunSystems business units can be configured separately using different information, different receipt types, etc. within the environment, and you can jump between these at any time. If we go up to the File menu, you can see here that we're able to use the Change Business Unit function to move between business units that we've configured. Within the receipting environment, the screen is split into two main areas, the main work area and on the left, the receipt tree. You can see that receipts here can be broken into central and local receipts. If you are processing directly against the SunSystems environment on a real-time basis, you will be entering central receipts. If you wish to enter local receipts, batch these up and then post them at some opportune moment, you can actually enter and create receipts under local receipts, and these would then need to be uploaded to central at some point during the process. Until then, they're held locally within the receipting environment on the machine that you are using. Within the system, you can browse through receipts that have been entered previously, have a look at this information if required, but the main function will be to enter a new receipt. If we move up to the top of the screen, we have a New button. By clicking New, we are able to generate a new receipt. Receipts can be given a number stream that can be defined by business unit or by user group if required. In this case, you can see I've given the receipt a 3 alpha character prefix, and then a systems generated number will be generated as we move through the receipting range. You may have as many different 3-letter prefixes as you need and associate these to different user groups as you move through the system. The receipt date is automatically generated based on the system's date, and the current period from SunSystems is picked up automatically, although this may be changed if required. Posting rules around period are retained, so as you post into SunSystems, if you have closed periods, open periods, etc., these things will all be picked up, and you will be unable to post to closed periods. If you wish to, you can actually apply a batch reference to a receipt. If you apply a batch reference, this means that you can set up a number of different receipts, use the same batch reference, and they will all then appear as a batch for viewing purposes or for posting purposes. In this case, I'm going to enter a new batch called batch 3. We are obviously going to raise a receipt, and the scenario receipting works well for is whereby someone has either sent you through a cash payment or a bank payment for an invoice that exists within SunSystems, or potentially a scenario where someone is sitting at a desk receiving cash from that desk as users come in and give them the money. You may want to look up the account name. Receipting is quite flexible as to how lookups work. In this case, I've actually given a direct lookup for account name from SunSystems. If I hit the drop down, you can see here a list of the SunSystems debtor accounts that exist within the system at the moment. We could, if we wanted to, have this lookup customized so that you're looking up based on address, looking up based on a reference number, etc. You can change this as part of the configuration. In this case, I'm looking up based on a account name, and I'm going to choose 6401 European Guidance Systems. We could, if we wish, type in the address, 123 Broad Street. However, you are also able to populate these fields automatically from within SunSystems if you wish to, using a linkage depending on how you've set up this referencing field. This could also bring through contact detail, for example, if needed. You can see that the user ID, creating the receipt, is there, and there is a posted option which will show what date this was actually posted once we've pushed through the system. Over on the right hand side, you can see that we have a total of all items in the receipt, the entered amount, the change due and the balance, based on the information we're entering into this receipt. Down at the bottom of the screen, there are two main elements to a receipt. We have the item, which is where we're defining the amount that we're receipting and linking this potentially to an invoice in SunSystems. And then we have the payment, so that we can see how that payment was received and any extra payment information, such as maybe bank details, credit card details, etc. In order to enter a receipt, the first thing we need to do is define the item. We go into the Items tab. We can look up items that have been configured within receipting. Some people set up receipts based on having generic items. Others set up receipts based on having items that are very defined, that may have predefined amounts against them, coding structure, etc. that works well for reporting. If I hit the drop down on the receipt item, we can see I've got two items defined within the module for this particular business unit. One is a cash in person, a cash item. We can have any description we like. We can use any coding structure we like. You're also able to have as many as you like. The other one is a care fee, a weekly care fee, and this has had certain values assigned against it in the background. Items also have accounts assigned against them. so we know where we're going to post the transaction values that come in through these receipts for these particular items, and you can default analysis and other bits and pieces in there as well. In this case, I'm going to choose a cash item. When I do this, a number of other fields can pop up below the item code. In this case, because it's just cash, I'm going to record an amount. If I have to find the item with other detail, maybe I have extra item details I wish to enter, extra fields that will pop up at this stage. In this case, I'm going to enter some extra item details, and you can see that I have, against this cash item, payment reason. There could be a number of different fields in this item, drop down up to 10 of them. The field name is entirely variable. In this case, I'm going to record a cash item of £664.61. Once we've done that, we can save the receipt item, and you can see that up at the top here, the total value of the receipt has appeared in drop down, and we can also have the amount that has been receipted and pushed through at this stage, which is none. I have not actually put a payment against the receipt, therefore the balance is still £664. If I wish to, I can look at existing transactions within the account structure for the account that I've chosen in order to allocate these against it. If I do this, I can click the Account Allocation tab. This will bring up a set of selection criteria where I can filter the information that's going to be returned from the account in order to make it easier to find the thing I wish to receipt against. The key point here is that receipting works well against invoices or transactions that have already been posted into Sun, so there is already a liability that needs to be receipted against. You can retrieve unallocated transactions using an A code if you wish, which means you can move across multiple accounts in one go, or you can just have it directly against the account related to this item. In this case, I'm going to leave it against this one account, which is 1200. I can also filter by transaction date, by reference, maybe this would be the receipt invoice number, journal source, by amount ranges, and I can actually look for credits and debits as well, or use any of the analysis or ledger analysis codes that exist against the business unit. In this case, I'm just going to filter by all. Once I've done this, receipting will go and search through the item account and return all unallocated transactions that we may wish to receipt this against. We already have an allocation amount of £664.61, and what we need to do is find the corresponding transaction within the SunSystems ledger. This is real-time information. The information displayed in this grid is standard SunSystems journal information and covers all the journal fields that you would see in SunSystems if you were to do a ledger inquiry. We can see transaction dates, references, periods, journal numbers, journal types, etc. Within the grid, standard functionality allows you to sort up and down by any of the columns. We can also use a filter here using this little funnel, and this allows us to enter either certain information or do a custom sort, whereby we can add up to 2 and or all criteria, equaling, not equaling, less than, is in, etc. This makes it very easy to find information you wish to receipt against. In this case, I'm going to look for debits. So we actually go and sort up and down here. I should be able to find a debit transaction, which is my invoice, and this needs to be invoiced against. So you can see here the value is £664.61. The value of the allocation I wish to make is £664.61 based on the value within my receipt. If I have added multiple receipt lines, I can allocate them all in one go or as an individual line. In this case, I'm going to add this one debit to my allocation. And what this will do is when I close the screen, we've now made a linkage between the invoice in SunSystems and the receipt that I'm entering. When we post this receipt through at the end of the process, receipting will then automatically allocate the receipt against that invoice using the standard SunSystems allocation markers. This makes it a one-stop shop for account allocation in relation to receipts. There is no need to go into Sun and allocate the transaction later. Before we move on to enter a payment against this receipt, we'll have a quick look at the setup of items. Up at the top of the screen, there is a maintenance area. This is only available to administrators of the system. In here are all the things that we need to do to configure receipting. The top entry here is item setup. In the item setup screen, we can configure as many different items as we require to receipt. Items such as our care fee here can have an associated fixed price if needed, and others such as the cash item we're using do not have a fixed price. There are a number of other receipting item configuration options. If we have a look at our cash item, we've given it a description. This is entirely variable. We can also give it 2 extra references. These references allow us to apply a label, but also have a lookup associated to those references. So if needed, you could look up information from another system or from SunSystems. In this case, I've set up a number of receipting item lookup codes that we could use, such as an address drill down, a debtor drill down. But also this is the area in which we could perhaps have a drill back to another system. So if you wanted to, looking up by a reference, you could look at information in an invoicing system or an inventory system or something like that. It would be a custom integration, however, that you would build at the database level in order to achieve this as part of an implementation. We can also, as part of an item, set up amounts. We can say if it's debit or credit naturally. We can give it transaction analysis defaults. These are T-codes or ledger analysis within Sun, so they would automatically be populated onto receipt based on the defaults unless we change them. And this is a live feed directly into the SunSystems ledger analysis area, so any new codes would appear here and made available automatically. We can also choose whether these are going to be displayed on the receipt and allow the user to change the entry if needed. We have up to 5 extra item references that could be applied. So there's our payment reason that we looked at earlier. We could have a couple of others. And then a posting setting allows us to decide which journal type will be used for the receipt, what the credit account is going to be for that, and of course how we're going to post. So this is our journal ledger posting rule that we've associated here. So items can be configured, they're quite flexible, and you can have as many as you like for different business units. We're now going to enter a payment against this receipt to balance it up. You can see here that we have an item but we don't have a payment, therefore it's out of balance currently. So to do this, we can go into the payment area. Payment area allows us to view again in a form or a grid view, depending on what we wanted to do, but the most important element is the payment method. Again, we can configure different payment methods as needed. Payment methods allow us to define how we're going to post transactions for payment and deposit into the ledger, but also to allow us to have different references, different bits of information that maybe need to be captured as part of this. So these should reflect the different ways in which cash or money comes into the organisation. So you may have cash payments, card payments, bank payments, direct debits, whatever it may be. All of these things allow us to have different references associated. So for an example, I have 2 here, a card payment and a cash payment. I look at the cash payment. The fields that come up are purely the amount and then a reference which I've called payee, and it automatically is set to pick up the account name coming through. These could have multiple references associated if needed. If we go and have a look at our card payment, you can see I've got bank and card information appearing here. So these are part of the configuration for the payment method. These are good for reporting or for record keeping purposes. We can also set up in the background a list of sort codes or BSB codes, and these are defined as part of the implementation. It's quite useful because it does allow someone who's entering bank payments regularly to quickly pick up, based on a sort code or a BSB number, something that's been defined in the system where it comes in regularly to that account, and that allows it to pre-populate information such as the bank, the branch, and then the user just has to enter the account number as needed. So this is a useful capability, and payment methods are important and obviously will be worked out as part of a design workshop. I'm going to enter a cash payment. The amount is automatically picked up from the item. This could be one payment against multiple items if I wanted to. So if I had multiple items entered, then maybe I could have one payment or multiple payments against it, as long as it balances out to 0 at the end. In this case, I'm going to enter the 1 against the line I have, click, and we're done. And that will have balanced out our receipt. So once we're happy, we've entered all the lines we wish to enter, I can save the receipt. And this now automatically pops up with an option to release it. If I release it, this means it moves it on to the next stage. If I don't release it, then it means I can come back and edit it, add extra lines, and then release it at a later date. I'm going to actually say no to release. This receipt now appears in our list here, receipt number 22. And using the right-click menu, I could go and open this to edit it if I wish to. I'm not going to edit it. It's ready to be released. So we're now going to have a look at the ability to release and move a receipt onto the next stage, which is the printing of a receipt, and then possibly onto a deposit slip, if that was going to be a separate phase within the process for you. So in order to release this receipt, we can go up and use the top bar menu. In this menu, there are a number of options. The File menu gives us the Change Business Unit. It also gives us shortcuts to a new receipt. We can import a receipt through XML if we wanted to, if it was coming from another system. We can open receipts or choose to open one by choosing a particular receipt number. We can also delete and cancel receipts. It's similar to the right-click function down in the grid. The Edit menu allows us to copy, cut and paste, and we can turn off and turn on various toolbars. The Tools menu is the main menu that is used by someone who wishes to move receipts through the process, and you can see here that we have an option to release the receipt, print a receipt, print a deposit slip, find a receipt, or post a receipt and deposit slip together if we wanted to as well. So naturally, you probably want to print a receipt after you release it. So in the background, as part of the options, we can define the system so that when you release a receipt, it will automatically ask whether or not you wish to print it. This is the function that I currently have active. I'm going to release receipt number 22. You can see that it's come up with a batch receipt release option. This would allow me to choose either central or local receipts, depending on how I'm working, and choose a range of receipt numbers, maybe a range of batch references, receipt dates, user IDs, and things like that. I can also go and choose the report layout that I wish to use in relation to showing a batch release function. So in this case, because I haven't released a receipt at the point of saving it, I'm going to actually choose to do it based on a batch release, and I can choose a receipt number. So down here I can choose one receipt number. I could also choose a range or indeed multiple receipts within a range. And when I do this, we're going to get a report of the fact that it has actually released this receipt. So when I run and say OK, the system has now picked up the fact that it's releasing a list of receipts. There is only one in this batch. I could have done it by batch ID if I had a number of receipts with the same batch ID. And it's released the one receipt with today's date, the amount, the payment amount, etc. This is the standard sort of reporting that you get within receipting using PDF listings. There is a built-in report designer that allows you to edit and change these reports, although all the reports you need initially are provided and standard reports generally will do the trick. Within the report preview, you are able to export the report to Excel, to Word, to PDF. You can print it or email it to someone from here. So it is a general sort of standardized reporting tool. I'm going to close the report. I'm happy that's the receipt that I've released. And we can now see that this receipt has been moved on through the process and it has been released. What we probably want to do, though, is now move towards the printing of this receipt, or perhaps the posting of the receipt if I didn't need to print one out. Printed receipts are good, obviously, if you need to actually give a receipt document to someone who has given you a payment at this point. If I haven't printed the receipt automatically as part of the release, then this again can be done from the tool option at the top here. If I go into print receipt, I have a number of selection criteria. So I can print local or central receipts. I can choose to print unprinted receipts, so this is all new ones that haven't been printed, or indeed include reprinting old receipts, ones that I have already printed. You can choose to list by receipt number, by batch reference, by user ID, receipt date, and there is of course again a report layout in relation to printing of a receipt, so you could have different receipt layouts, and that report designer does allow you to have your own logos, etc. In this case, if I wanted to, I could choose by a department or any of your other ledger analysis or T codes, but I'm just going to choose to print all receipts. So if I preview this, this is a standard sort of receipt that appears as part of the process and is implemented with this report design when you install receipting. You are able to edit it and change it, as I say. So I've actually reprinted a number of different receipts here with different batch references, etc. And I could move through the report looking at different receipts if there was more than one of them. Obviously, the receipt design is important, and you do need to work out what that's going to be as part of the design if you do need to send receipts out the door. So at this stage, I have actually got this released receipt. It is ready to go. And the next step in the process would be to move on to a deposit slip. So at the point of posting a receipt or a deposit slip, in effect, what you're doing is you're pushing the receipt into the clearing account and recognizing that against the customer account. And then when you post the deposit slip, which of course may be related to an action you take later in the process, perhaps you're batching up cash you're receiving, and then you're going to go and deposit that at the bank in its purest form. However, in reality, if we're talking about bank payments, card payments, you are really receiving the receipt, allocating it against the invoice or the liability, and then also posting the cash into the bank account at exactly the same time. So there are a number of different modes in which the system can be used. If you did have a situation where you were receiving cash or receiving something where you needed to give print out a deposit slip, whereby it could be for a number of different receipts, you have an amount that you're going to deposit at the bank, and that's the slip that you may use to indicate what those amounts are, you are able to use the print deposit slip function. So again, you could go and choose a report layout for your deposit slip. You can print unprinted deposit slip, post a deposit slip directly after the posting, if that's what you want, after the printing, sorry, if that's what you wanted to do, or reprint old deposit slips that you may have already done for a certain bank. So if we did follow this process, obviously what you need to do is choose the bank account. Again, you may have a BSB list set up here where you are going to deposit the money, and then you would want to actually have a range of receipts or a batch reference that makes up the payment that you're about to make into this bank. So it could be draft or final copy. So if it's draft, it can be changed. You can add extra receipts to it. If it's final, then it's actually part of the process and finished. So in this case, I'm going to do a draft copy, and I'm going to print unprinted deposit slips. So if I preview this, you can see here we've got cash deposits, number of different receipts. They're all good to go in, and this is the bank account I've chosen to deposit that into. So this is really representing an actual batching of different receipts, a cash amount. I could now use this receipt to go and deposit at the bank. In reality, as I say, for a bank type process, for a receipted type process where it's involving cards or bank payments, you probably don't need a deposit slip, but it is an option that's available within the system. The final stage, if you don't need the deposit slip, or indeed if you've gone through that process and it is part of the steps that you require, is to actually post the transactions into SunSystems. And that is to post the receipt into the clearing account, post the deposit slip, the payment against it, and clear the clearing account and copy it out. If you go up into the toolbar, you have the post receipt deposit slip option. So you have here the option to do receipts, and the option to do deposit slips. So it may be that what we need to do here is post the receipts, which means it posts it to the item cash account and to the customer account, or to a clearing account. And that then recognises the receipt for the customer and actually allocates it against the invoice if you've used the online allocation function. At a later point, you may want to then come through and say, I'm going to post the deposit slips, which is when you've deposited the money at the bank. And that would then post the journals that clear the clearing account and shift it into the actual bank account. If you are doing a bank type process whereby payments are already received and pushed through, then what you may want to be doing here is posting the receipt and deposit slip at the same time. So depending on the journal posting rules that you've defined in the background, it may be you aren't using a clearing account, perhaps it's going directly into the bank account, or perhaps you are using clearing account and then moving it into the bank using deposit slip. So it entirely depends on the configuration and how you wanted to use the system. So in this case, we are actually going to post receipts, so I could exclude a certain a range of receipts, meaning I'm only going to post deposit slips, or I can include certain receipts in the posting by date, by batch, etc. So again, it could be individuals or many. And then in deposit slips, I can decide which deposit slips are going to be posted. So it could be all, or I could restrict it by user group or by user as well. So you may want to post different deposits by different people because an individual may be doing that deposit. So again, it comes down to the way in which you're using the system. So I'm going to do all. I'm going to include all receipts, but in this case, I actually may just choose my receipt 22 that we wanted to post, and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to post deposit slips and receipt at the same time. So all I need to say is OK. Oops. What I've just realised there is that I don't have a deposit slip to post because I only did a draft copy of printing my deposit slip. So I do need to actually do a final print. So what we're going to do is just cancel that. We'll go up here and go back to print deposit slips. This time we'll go print unprinted deposit slips. I'm not going to post it because I want to show you the batch as I was just looking at. But this time, instead of draft copy, I'm going to say final copy just to ensure that we do get that done. So if I go preview, it's the same as before, however it is final, and this means there is now a deposit slip actually printed, and therefore I can post it. So that was the little hiccup there. If I go back into the post receipt deposit slips, I'm going to post my receipts. Again, I'll just choose my receipt 22. Deposit slips. This time I have a deposit slip to post because I have now printed this as a final copy. And of course, you could have actually had it print that deposit slip automatically as a result of releasing the receipt. So you don't have to go through that step. So in this case, here's my deposit slip. We have the bank account in Sun, 52100. It's going to post it with certain bank account details, total value of the deposit, and all the other bits and pieces that are associated to it. You can see here that deposit slip that I printed actually did include a number of different receipts. So the entire deposit that I'm putting in is the 15 grand, even though the receipt I'm actually posting here in this case is just my 22 grand. So maybe what I will perhaps do is remove that and print all my post all my receipts so that I'm ensuring my deposit slip and my receipts are all in balance. Although I could still post one receipt, post the whole deposit slip, and then come back and later post the receipts, but it depends on your processing steps. So if I include this deposit slip to be pushed through, and I'm going to say OK. And that's the journals posted. So that is now a complete receipt that's being passed into the system. We now have the journal for the receipt in SunSystems, and then the deposit slip, the payment, posted as well. If you're using a clearing account, it will have cleared out that clearing account for the receipt and shifted across with the bank payment, and the process is complete. So it is a very simple tool for raising receipts and raising deposit slips if required, and it's a very integrated tool that's very smoothly passing journals and data through into SunSystems, and of course using SunSystems data where needed as part of that process. So just before we finish, the only thing that remains to show you is that there is some reporting that comes with the system. We have an item code listing and a receipt listing. Again, they're just straight PDF reports, and we can design these reports to meet your needs. So if we have a look at the item code listing, we can choose a range, look at active or inactive. If we preview this, obviously we can just see the two items that I have there, and we have similar for receipt listings as well. There is also the capability to find a receipt. So down here we can actually just enter a receipt number and have it open that receipt. So we could enter one of these numbers and it would take us directly there. So that's a sort of a very basic open a named receipt. And there is a tool up here for finding a receipt. So we choose find receipt. Here we have some selection criteria. It covers virtually everything you can imagine within the receipting data entry. We can add transaction analysis codes as well. So here you can do counting periods, names, references, check numbers, etc. And if we just open one of these, so that's all receipts, I didn't put any criteria in there, you can see that it gives us a grid with all the receipt data in the grid. We can sort up and down by any of the columns, similar to what we were looking at before in the columns. We've got the same filter key options where we can go and choose particular ones using various Boolean expressions. And then we can also group. So if I wanted to group by batch reference, for example, I can drag up here, group, and have a look at ones that have the same batch reference. I can then open one of these by just clicking on it. So this will take me directly to that receipt. So quite a strong receipt function for finding historical receipts that you've pushed through the system. So that's the end of the demonstration. Thank you very much for your time, and much appreciate you having a look at the receipting for Infor SunSystems. If you have any queries or questions, please feel free to contact your SunSystems partner. We'll be happy to help you, and of course if you need a customized demonstration, that can be arranged as well. So thank you very much for your time.